Hello, welcome. Yesterday I did a video on the basics of a spy agency. Today we're going to be doing a video about whether or not they're worth it and how much they are worth. So, to start off with, this is the build I did where you go 4-year plan second. This is without having built a spy agency. January 1st, 1938, we have 96 civs and we're going to finish 4 more. So, how does that stack up compared to building a spy agency? And when should you build that spy agency? So let's go to the first save. This is 12 days later, but this is building it on January 1st, 1937. And in this save, we've also run 2 collaboration governments on France. So right now we have 91 civs, and we're reasonably going to complete 95. We should not have started this one. It should have been switched to mills because this is around when you want to switch to building mills. So we're going to be 5 civs behind, having not built a spy agency at all. In this one, we've also taken the elusive gentleman. This gives us 3 spies and allows us to chain our collaboration governments. Let's compare that to just building it from the beginning of the game, but not taking the spy agency guy. In the save, we've also done 2 collaboration governments. We did the second one slightly earlier because we had it slightly earlier. So we're 89 civs and we're reasonably going to complete 5. Argument to be made, we shouldn't have started this one, so we're actually only going to complete 4. In this instance, rather than ending up with 95, we're going to end up with 93 or 94. Realistically, this should be 93. So building it from the beginning game cost us 2 civs. We are further through our second collaboration government, but both have been paid for already. And in this instance, we actually went with Orban to get extra political power gain. And I should have checked that. We're at 560 political power versus 460. We're actually 100 political power behind, having not gotten Borman. That's 1 military staff. But the flip side is, we're 2 civs ahead. What is this showing? Just 10 upgrades is going to take 5 civs off you. Now, why is that? Well, each of these upgrades, other than localized training centers, is 5 civs for 30 days. Effectively 11 upgrades done. That's 55 civs for 30 days. 55 civs for 30 days is about 2 civs. But what you're ignoring is the snowball effect. Having not built any, you end up with 7 more civs than building from the beginning of game, or 5 more civs if you delayed a year. So it really depends on what you're using your spy agency for. If you don't really have a plan for your spy agency, just don't build one. Or maybe you just establish it so you get the spy. You only need to spend the 5 civs to establish it and appoint the elusive gentleman to be able to apply diplomatic pressure or be able to infiltrate. You don't need to do really any of these upgrades. So really, what am I saying? Don't do these upgrades just to do them. Do them because you have a reason to do them. Come in here and do blueprint stealing and invisible ink and 3 other upgrades because you're trying to steal blueprints and you need 3 spies to do that. Don't do them just because, well, I might as well. No, what I'm also saying is leave the upgrades as late as possible. Don't start doing your cryptology department and start doing your cryptology levels at the start of the game. You're just weakening your economy for no reason. Now let's go on to the main part of this video, and that is the collaboration governments. So let's look at the cost of forming a collaboration government. So here on the UK, it's going to cost us 10 civs for 60 days. If instead we tried to do it on the Soviets, it cost us 13 civs for 60 days. If we moved to Turkey, which is a neutral country, forming a collaboration government on them is also going to take 10 civs for 60 days. Let's try Japan. They're a fascist country. Forming a collaboration government on Japan is going to take us 14 civs for 60 days. Let's just check with the United States. The United States is a really big country. Maybe it's just country size that matters. So forming one on the United States is going to take us 14 civs over 60 days, which forming on Canada is 10 civs over 60 days. So there's clearly some sort of math for the size of the country. We could try Yugoslavia. 10 is the base though. If we form one on Yugoslavia, it's also 10 over 60 days. So that first one is going to cost you at least 10 civs, but it could cost you as many as 14. Now, how much the second one costs you depends on how much the first one cost you. So let's just instantly do one here. So we instantly did one and we got lucky. We got a 45% collaboration government. There was a 33% chance of that happening. Now, that does 2 things. One, it's going to reduce their surrender by 13%, which is why it is essential to do one on the Soviet Union if you're going to declare war on them. And 2, we are going to get 45% compliance after they've capitulated. You don't get any during the war, but once you've capitulated them, any territory you take, you're going to get 45%. The amount you get is equal to their level of collaboration. So let's quickly prepare a collaboration government on Yugoslavia, and hopefully we don't get the bonus. I want just the 30% out of this one. So we got a 30% here. Let's rebuild these networks. So if we prepared a second one, it is going to cost us 20 civs over 60 days. Now, following the same math as before, having it cost us 13 for level 1 on the Soviets, you would expect level 2 to cost us 26, which is 30% more. So let's give it a go. He says the second one's going to cost us 17 over 60 days. That's actually a 15% reduction in the costs compared to the Yugoslavians. Well, that's interesting. The first one cost us 13 and the second one cost us 17. Overall, that's still 30 civs, which is the same as what Yugoslavia's cost us. Well, let's just perform this, and we got a 30%. So now we're sitting at 75% for the Soviets, and we'll do the collaboration government on Yugoslavia. Oh, also, at no point in time is this an endorsement of actually doing a collaboration government on Yugoslavia. This is just for demonstration purposes. We've got a 33% chance of this happening. Hopefully it doesn't. So we got 30%. We've got 60% on Yugoslavia, 75% on the Soviets. This is the debatable part. Do you do the extra collaboration government? Let me just bring up how much you get from each compliance level. This does not factor in resistance laws. This is just the base. So going from 75% to 90, not that big of a deal. And you're not going to stay at 90 anyways. You're going to trend back down towards 75 from occupied and exile. So if you get the 45 and the 30, I would argue just stick at 75% unless you want to form the collaboration government and just not deal with resistance. If you get to 60, doing a third one will probably be worthwhile. So let's see. What is that third one going to cost us? That third one's going to cost us 29 civs. Overall, doing 3 collaboration governments is going to cost you approximately 60 civs for 60 days. 60 civs for 60 days is 4 civilian factories. That's how many civilian factories you could have built in that time frame. That's the production lost. If we look at the Soviets, doing a third collaboration government on it is going to have the same costs. So they're also at 59 civs, which is about 4 civs. Like we can actually just look. If you're building an 80% slot, it's going to take you 56 days. So 56 days, you do that 4 times, that's 4 civs. Instead, if you're going to be building military factories, well, each military factory on war economy is going to cost you 30 days. It's 4 civs or 8 mils. That's what this is going to cost you. In general, the total cost is going to be the same. If we redo this with the UK, we got 30%. We go and we do it again, it's going to cost us 20. We got another 30%. If we do a third one, it's going to only cost us 22. Okay, actually, the tooltip says 23, or it'd say 22. Why 22? Don't ask me. The other two cost 29. UK is just randomly cheaper. Let's try this with Ireland instead, because clearly there's got to be some math for this. We'll do it on Canada. So we got a 30. Please another 30. It's going to cost us 20 here. So it's going to cost us 20 civs. And for some reason, each time we do this, it's refunding our transport planes. Don't ask me why. Actually, how do I have 5 transport planes? I only start with 4. Listen, this game does weird things. So second one's going to cost us 20, and we got a 45 on them. Third one's going to cost us 29. Do not ask me why the UK's third one only cost us 23, because I can't give you an answer for that. That should not have cost 23. That should have cost 29. It is definitely making sure that the first 2 cost you 30 civs. The last one should cost you 29. It makes the math easy though. That first one is going to cost you about 7,000 IC, which is about 65% of a civ. That's not that expensive. That's pretty cheap actually. A 20% increase in their factories, and it also gives you a 25% reduction in your required garrisons. Or it can get you all the way up to 45%, which also gives you an additional 10% of their resources and factories, or the final amount being 64 and 72%. That first level is worth a lot, especially if you get lucky. After that is where you get into diminishing returns. To do this math about this, let's use a country like the Netherlands. Collectively, the Netherlands, if we check, has 22 factories and not much in the way of resources. Now, you will slowly gain compliance over time. You're not really going to get much because if you want to keep this under 20%, you're really going to have to set them to at least secret police, and then you're going to need to put Holland on military governor, which means you're not going to gain that much. We'll put it at 15. We'll insert a row and we'll put it at 15%. Let's just do it with 25 factories. So you're going to get 6.25 factories. I'm assuming that's going to round down, or more likely just truncate. So 1 level of compliance in the short term, immediately it's going to net you 78% more factories, or about 5, and about 1.5 times more factories, or about 10. If you get lucky, it instantly pays itself off just in terms of numbers of factories. If you don't get lucky, then your payback time is going to be 120 days if you're just trading factories for factories. Now you're trading civs, and some of these are going to be mills, so maybe 150. 150 days versus maybe about 90. Now long term, you're probably going to end up with a little bit of compliance, somewhere around 10-20%. So that's all with 25 factories. If you did it on someone with like 15, I mean, the percents are going to stay the same, but instead, if you're not lucky, you're gaining maybe 3 factories. It costs you 10 to get that though. And that's 10 during your snowball. So I'd say somewhere around 20 to 25 factories is going to be your break point for whether or not you want to consider doing that first one and roll the dice. Because there's a 33% chance that you get 45%. And when you're at 45%, secret police is enough to keep you under that 25% resistance target, which is enough to have your compliance grow slightly, and just not need that much in the way of divisions. 1.78 for Poland. I'm using 4.28 just for the Netherlands. So you can significantly reduce your garrison requirements and significantly increase the amount of factories and resources you're going to get by doing collaboration governments. I'm just going to set the Netherlands to 80% real quick. So without the collaboration government, if we come back in here and we let the game update, we are getting 104% of their resources. That's because we're on secret police. Let's go back to civilian oversight. It's the only way you're going to try and maintain this level of compliance. And it does just barely, even with a small occupied and exile. So we're going to get 87.1% of their factories, including the fact that they actually have 6 dockyards. If we form the collaboration government, we're going to save ourselves 1.38 divisions. We're going to lose out on a little bit of their factories, because instead of getting 19.1 from them, we're getting about 5 of their 6 dockyards. If we look right now, we have 33 dockyards. If we form the collaboration government, we now have 28. So like I said, 5 of the 6. So we had 17 factories that were not dockyards, of which the 6 dockyards we just lost. We're now getting 0.75% of that, which is 12.75 depending on how it rounds. Previously, we were getting 19.1. If we discount the dockyards, we were getting 2 more factories. We no longer have to worry about compliance. We no longer have to worry about resistance. They have cores. And if we wanted to, we could come in here and we could steal their templates and steal their manpower. That's a division. I don't think collaboration governments are really worthwhile unless you're not going to be able to maintain the level of compliance. If you're dealing with occupied as capitulate, occupied and exile, and that's reducing your compliance, and you're not going to be able to maintain high compliance, then collaboration governments are going to be worthwhile. They're not really worth it. There is one other benefit. You do not have to take collaboration governments in peace deals. They're just your territory. You don't have to fight for them, and they don't reduce your score either. Now, there is one thing I'd actually like to go back and test. Now, theoretically, you could do a 90% collaboration government on Poland, establish the collaboration government, and keep all the Eastern Territory, and do Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact. You're going to form the collaboration government in Poland. They still demanded it. Are they going to get it? They still got it. No, forming collaboration government in Poland does not cheese taking Eastern Poland. Unfortunate. And you also lose your cores here. Anyways, let's go on to the special case of France. Okay, let's go over the special case of France. France is special because you have 2 options. Establish Vichy France or don't establish Vichy France. In single player, debatable. I would say if you're playing in multiplayer, not establishing Vichy France is throwing, because then you just let the French have the French Navy. Is the French Navy good? No. But its existence basically guarantees that Italy loses the Med. So establishing Vichy France in multiplayer, required. In single player, well, I went and counted. There are 13 civs in Vichy France, North Africa, and Syria, and 2 mills. So that's what you're going to lose. You're losing access to that if you establish Vichy France and you don't establish the collaboration government. So let's just assume you are going to establish Vichy France. With Vichy France established, in this playthrough I got lucky, or unlucky depending on how you view it. I got a 45, then a 30, then a 45. Couldn't have gotten those 45s back to back, could I? That'd be so much more cost effective. So in this instance, I'm getting 99% of their factories, 96% of their resources, excluding the resources in Vichy France. This is going to tick down over time because of occupied and exile and high compliance. And in this number, we are also getting their dockyards. It doesn't say it there, but we are getting dockyards from France. There are 7 dockyards here in North and Western France. If we establish the collaboration government, we're not going to get any of them. I mean, we're playing as Germany, the dockyards don't really matter, but it is a consideration for some other instances, such as the other special case, which is Japan and China. It is arguable if Japan wants to form a collaboration government in China because of losing out on the dockyards. They don't have many building slots. They'd be better off with just the high compliance. Now, there is another thing that happens when you establish Vichy France and establish the collaboration government. I've shown this multiple times, but when you do this and you let the game run, your collaboration government eats the South and basically all of their other territory. That's why I included North Africa and Syria in that calculation, because those are the 2 you can likely hold on to. You're not going to really hold on to German France, Indochina for very long, although, you can import the rubber for a little bit, which is nice if you're a little short on your rubber production. Other things that happen is because Free France exists, they get the generic focus tree. That's 7 factories that they can just generate over time. Plus, any factories that you are not getting, they get to keep. So they're not going to waste. You just don't get them, which means German France will continue to build stuff. So let's actually take this back a little bit. 143 civs with Vichy France established, no provisional government, 100% compliance. And if we look at our mil count, we're at 163. So if we reestablish the collaboration government and we let it update, let it eat Vichy France, we're now at 146. So we just netted ourselves 3 civs. What are we at for factories? We're actually only at 154 mils. So we got 3 civs out of it, but we lost ourselves 9 military factories. That's less than ideal. So the difference is actually only 1 military factory between 100 and 90, and we have the same number of civs. Now remember, our compliance is going to tick down over time, especially as Free France gains legitimacy. So what I would argue is don't form the collaboration government until the last second you're allowed to. Unless you're playing multiplayer and you have somebody who's ready to hot join as German France and take control of their navy, I would argue leave it just as this, and then as your compliance ticks down, when it's at like 80.5%, then form the collaboration government. Anyways, that's everything you need to know about collaboration governments, if and when they're worth it, and whether or not a spy agency is even worth it in your game. Anyways, thank you for watching, and I will see you guys next time.